right, man. Welcome. And thanks.
Yes, I've been following Champions now for a while. Actually, I've been a big fan of Hero Systems since the 80s.
Right.
And I've seen the evolution of the system and think that some things, especially with 6th edition, seem to be getting a little, out of hand. And then I saw your idea for, okay, let's just simplify things. And I thought that's a great idea.
Well, for me, the big transition was to 4th. And I know that I've gone on about this before, but I think that first round, which, I mean, if you were gaming back in the 80s, the term edition is just a silly joke, right? The word edition is pretty much just the next printing with a few typos fixed and a few added. And so that first round of 1st, 2nd, 3rd edition is pretty much one document. Yeah, pretty much.
That's
and
when there was this paradigm shift.
Here, I want to emphasize something that for our purposes, okay, for you and me, right? And you're kind enough to take this time with me. What I want to emphasize is that back then, they didn't have any problem knowing what to do with a superhero. If you were playing Champions, you were an X-Men Teen Titans fan.
Yeah.
You had been reading the Avengers in the 70s, and you had, and remember, the 1st edition is pre-Secret Wars, pre-official handbook of the Marvel Universe. So even the 2nd and 3rd editions, they're not really sunk knee deep into that way of looking at things. There was no source book of Marvel heroes with all their stats and stuff. That didn't exist. So think about, okay, you're landed with the opportunity to make an awesome superhero comic, and you've got an artist like the young and hungry John Byrne, or the young and hungry Frank Miller, and the young and hungry George Perez. You are that person, and you are that comic book writer. You're crazy with the desire to do this right, and there aren't 9 million TV shows, and there aren't 9 million, iterations of superhero product in your face all day. It's yours. No one else reads superheroes. You do. And so you get to make your comic now. And nobody's telling you how to do it. You make your superhero comic, your super team comic. That's pretty exciting. And my take is that we do best to start with 2 statements. You might have seen the videos already where I talk about this, but we start with 2 statements, and the way it works, I just land the players with it. I just say, hey, players, here are the 2 statements for this game. If you hate it, then speak up, but otherwise, suck it up. This is the comic we're doing this time. And the first statement for us is that it's going to be about heroes and powers. And I'm going to say that, heroic powers, yes. Heroic ideals, maybe. Right? So that's our first statement. Mm-hmm. And so whatever it is you come up for powers, you think of them as being really obvious heroic powers, whatever that is. And then second is a sort of more of a dramatic statement. It's going to be, unless it's fought, evil wins everywhere and always.
Yeah, that's the old, and I think it's actually a pretty true statement, just even for the real life.
I'm telling you, I'm reaching in myself. Yeah, I'm reaching in myself. Martin Luther King was a wonderful, wonderful guy and did all these great things, but no, there is no arc of justice, and no, we are not bending toward it. Thank you very much. And so, anyway, so there's that. And then I'm going to ask you, what is a city or, populous community, I guess, that you know really, really well?
2, actually. The one where I grew up, which would be, I was brought up on Long Island, New York, suburb of New York City, so I know the New York City metro area well.
Right.
I haven't been there in a long time, but I knew that, I grew up knowing that. Today, I live in Northern Virginia, so I know the D.C. metro area very well.
Wow. Hardcore. Okay.
And I currently run games. Some of them are based in the DC area, and some of them are based in the New York metro area, and they're both in the same game universe.
Let's go ahead and let you pick. Which one do you want to do?
Setting?
Yeah, and also let's focus it. So if it's not just blah New York, it's Long Island. And it's not just like blah DC, it's your zone of Virginia and its association with DC.
Okay, let's pick my current hometown of Ashburn, Virginia. That's about 30 miles west-northwest of Washington, D.C. proper. It's a middle-class, typical suburban-style neighborhood in general, American style. But one interesting thing about it is that it has a very large number of data centers, and over 70% of the world's internet traffic goes through Ashburn, Virginia.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, shoot, why are we even going to leave the borders? I mean, we've got...
Yeah, it's a little known fact about the internet that basically the hub of the internet for the world is Ashburn, Virginia.
So if you went floated above the earth and looked at it with internet eyes, you'd see that from space.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the center of the web, as it were.
Fantastic. Dude.
And if terrorists got hold of a huge EMP weapon and set it off here, it would be bad for everybody everywhere. Because all of a sudden the internet stopped.
Well, that could never happen in a superhero comic.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if you've seen it, but I do this triangle, right? Here, look. It looks, shockingly enough, like a triangle. So, and it's real easy. I think of it as a sketch. You are writing in one corner, spitballing anything and everything that you like about the powers that your character might have, like what they look like, what they do, stuff like that. And then in another corner, you're writing everything about the person, as if they weren't a superhero, basically. Or that's not really fair. Of course they are, but stuff about the person. And then in the third corner, you're writing problems of any kind. And so once you start like just scribbling freely in any corner, it's not like you fill one up and then move to another. You just scribble freely in each one. And pretty soon when you start seeing things connect in your mind across them, then we're in the right spot, basically. So go ahead and start that. That's all we can do at this point. I don't do anything. Champions Now, the recommended way is right now the Game Master shuts up. And the players don't ask, can I, and what about? No, just you're up.
Okay. I'm gonna come up with a basic kind of character that isn't original, but I want to see how it comes out in Champions Now, I guess would be...
Okay, that's fine. As I will also point out that originality is horribly overrated in comics.
Right.
I mean, and all the best characters are basically salads of good ideas from before. And second, that it is great as long as you love what we're doing. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, instead of just being a thought exercise, you're like, and I really want to play that.
Mm-hmm.
So then we're good.
Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah,
so yeah, scribble away.
Okay. I don't have something to scribble on here, so I'll just talk it. It's an alien princess from a far-off planet.
Mm-hmm.
She grew up not having to do that much and liking it that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not a bad person, just she didn't have to do anything and didn't mind that. Her life was basically planned for her.
Mm-hmm.
And she was bred to be, beautiful, sophisticated, intelligent, just do her princess thing.
Mhm.
And she was fine with that. Unfortunately, her world got invaded by your cliche, very nasty space communist Nazi alien type people. And she was forced to flee.
Okay, but right now,
Hmm?
I accept that there is now an asterisk that explains this.
Okay.
That's great. But we're going to find out about that later. Let's skip over to another corner.
Sure.
Because right now you're talking about the person, and that's the background of the person. That's looking good.
Right.
So let's take a look at another corner. When I look at the powers, think of there like being a half-page ad in the comic book. And it says, incoming soon, right? And then here she is doing something. What do I see?
Glowing, flying, and shooting big gap blasts of cosmic energy.
Got it. Glowing, flying, cosmic blasts.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. Now, what about problems? And they can relate to stuff you've already said, certainly.
Yeah. She's on Earth now, so she's a fish out of water.
Right.
She has to get accustomed to this entirely new world.
Right.
So that's a big problem. She has to make a life for herself here when her old life was really easy.
Right.
She didn't have to do anything. Here, all of a sudden, things aren't easy anymore.
Yeah, that's right. It's complicated. That's what I'm writing in the corner right now. It's complicated! Exclamation mark. Yeah.
And she still has to worry about if she's being hunted.
Right. Yep.
Those are her two big problems.
Alien, enemy, hunters. Got it. Okay, so wonderful. The term, are you familiar with the term EXPY, E-X-P-Y?
No,
it means, I use it in the text, and I said, Jason, we should define it in here, and he said, screw it, let him look it up. I had to. I said, okay, man, you're the editor. So anybody says I don't explain things in there, it's his fault. So, but it means expropriated character.
Okay.
And many of our favorite comic book characters are expropriated characters whose antecedents are actually forgotten. If you ever see the Spider Queen from the 30s, or the 40s, you would be amazed at this wall-crawling crime fighter who shoots webs from her wrists.
Oh, cute.
Yeah. And then everybody's like, who invented Spider-Man? Steve Ditko or Stan Lee? Oh my God. And I'm like,
someone else came up with a similar concept.
Shut up. So, it's so cool. It's all to the better. It's all what you do with it. It's all how good it is now. That's all. So, we're looking at her, and so pretty good setup here. And when we move to the numbers, it's not like you have to try to make things original so much as being willing to think about the location and riffing on it a little bit in your head. And about this time, I would be talking to other people and seeing what they came up with. And we come up with sort of the bare minimum necessary concept for the super team. Most super teams actually have really stupid justifications. Nobody on this earth will ever be able to explain why the Justice League is together.
Yeah.
It's to save IP, okay? It's to keep IP published. It's not for any other reason. And so, and then others are a little more like have common origins or something like that. But for our purposes right now, we don't really have to worry about that. Just imagine that other people each jumped in with someone, and we can make it work as a super team, A, because we have to, and B, because it's easy. We don't have to have these tedious discussions of, why we're all together. I hate that.
Just cause. That's enough.
It's a comic. We're making a super team comic. Start there.